This is the story of a tank with a very British promise. Show up late, hit like a freight train, and quietly change the way the UK fights on land. The Challenger 3 isn't a paper concept or a CGI fever dream, it's the British Army's next fist in steel, arriving with a new gun, new brain, new armor, and a new place in NATO's order of battle. If you've ever thought the UK's armored force was yesterday's headline, this is the part where the scrolling stops, because this tank could change everything, from the ammo it fires to the networks it lives inside. And it does it while keeping that very British habit of understatement. Stiff upper lip? Sure, but the lip now hides 120 millimeters of smoothbore attitude. Challenger 3 isn't a clean sheet tank, it's a deep rebuild of Challenger 2, new turret atop a proven hull, done by Rheinmetall BAE Systems Land, RBSL. The Army is converting 148 vehicles for service into the 2030s and beyond. That number is small by Cold War standards. But the point here is quality, not mass. A networked, NATO-standardized heavy hitter that actually fits the way Britain fights now, slotting into armored brigade combat teams with Boxer and Ajax. Initial operating capability is aimed at 2027, with trials already underway and early vehicles rolling for tests. In a world where coming soon can mean never, CR3's calendar matters. Now, the headline reason everyone's watching, firepower, Challenger 3 finally ditches the unique rifled 120mm and embraces the NATO mainstream, Rheinmetall's high-pressure 120mm L55A1 smoothbore. This isn't just swapping barrels. It unlocks the entire NATO ammunition ecosystem. We're talking modern APFSDS like DM63A1 today, and the newer DM73 family for the L55A1's higher pressures, plus programmable multi-purpose HE like DM11 for airburst over trenches, window punching inside buildings, and precision effects against drones and light armor. The gun is built to run hotter, faster, and farther than older 120s, and that matters when your peers are upgrading too. Programmable airburst is the quiet revolution. With DM11, the round's fuse is set by the tank before it leaves the breech, so the shell detonates above, in front of, or just inside cover. That means infantry in defilade, UAV teams behind low walls, and soft targets get nowhere to hide. For a British army that expects to fight under drone-filled skies, the ability to reach around corners without calling artillery isn't just convenient, it's a survival trick. And yes, demonstrations and kit integration for DM11 on CR3 are in the plan. What about range and lethality? Rheinmetall and British industry have been clear. The L55A1 brings higher chamber pressures and a claimed step up in penetration, on the order of 20% versus earlier L55 baselines, when paired with new penetrators. Articles following CR3 trials have also flagged engagement envelopes around the 5-kilometer mark for certain munitions and conditions. Translation: if you can see it, you can credibly ruin its day, and you can do it with a standardized ammo family your allies already stock. Logistics officers everywhere just exhaled. There's a trade, and it's honest. Moving from Britain's 2-part ammo to NATO single-piece shells means fewer rounds on board. Expect roughly 31 main gun rounds in a blow-off bustle, instead of the old CR2's 40-plus split around the turret and hull. Crew safety, however, jumps way up. With the hot stuff quarantined behind blast doors, a catastrophic hit vents up and out. Better for the crew, worse for the turret roof. It's the Abrams/Leopard way, now the British way. That is the kind of boring design choice that saves lives. Let's talk crew and automation. CR3 keeps the 4-person crew, commander, gunner, loader, driver, which is both tradition and pragmatism. There's no autoloader here. Instead, you get a digital turret with modern commander and gunner sights, including an independent 360-degree panoramic for the commander and fully stabilized fire control for on-the-move shots. Thales is supplying the heavy-duty eyes, gunner's primary and the commander's panoramic package, while Rheinmetall's electronics bring a driver's vision system and an embedded image periscope for better day-night driving. It's less Victorian periscope, more armored Tesla cabin camera, and it makes urban and low-light work survivable. On the defensive side, the star upgrade is active protection. The UK has trialed and is moving to integrate Rafael's Trophy MV on Challenger 3, hard-kill interceptors that sense and smash incoming missiles and rockets, while also geolocating the shooter so you can return the favor in seconds. It's combat-proven on Merkavas and shows up on Abrams for a reason. For British crews, Trophy Plus improved modular armor and modern smoke obscurant systems is a layered umbrella against top threats on today's battlefield. Secondary weapons are the usual tank dance: a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun and provision for a pintle or remote weapon station at the commander's hatch, depending on configuration. The important part is the integration. Modern RWS units sit on the same digital backbone as the sights and battle management, letting crews scan, lace, and engage without breaking the turret-to-network conversation. In an era when a quadcopter can decide your morning, a stabilized Top Gun you can slave to a sensor is worth its weight in tea and biscuits. Now to the nervous system. CR3 is built around the UK's Generic Vehicle Architecture, GVA, a modular, open standard that turns your tank from a bespoke wiring nightmare into a USB for warfare setup. Swap processors, add sensors, upgrade radios, plug in new software without reinventing the loom. The British Army's wider communications plan has had its dramas. Morpheus, the Bowman replacement, has slippages, so expect CR3 to enter service on the upgraded Bowman backbone first, with an upgrade path into the LATAC/Morpheus environment as it matures. The point: the tank is digitally ready, even if the radio bureaucracy isn't. But can it move? Mobility is a British specialty, and CR3 keeps the Horseman hydrogas suspension now in its third generation, so it rides smoothly and keeps the gun steady while bounding. Under the deck, you'll find an upgraded version of the venerable CV12 diesel with improved thermal management and a refreshed transmission. No, it's not a 1,500 horsepower Euro power pack miracle swap, but at around 66 tons with roughly 1,200 horses, the power to weight ends up in the low 20s horsepower per ton, a respectable figure for a big cat in European terrain. The upgrades are designed to improve reliability, cooling, and shoot-on-the-move accuracy rather than to win drag races. That's fine. Tanks don't need to win Le Mans, they need to win gunfights. Range, trench crossing, gradients. CR3 stays in the same neighborhood as its peers. Long enough legs for brigade advances, clout to bowl through obstacles, and suspension that makes stabilized gunnery feel unfair to whoever you're shooting at. The real mobility win is logistical. Standard NATO 120mm ammo means you aren't the oddball at the coalition party anymore. Germany, the US, the Nordics, everyone stocks what you need. When your tank can borrow rounds like a neighbor's lawnmower, wars get simpler. Operationally, this all lands in a British Army that's reorganizing around a smaller but sharper heavy core. Boxer-wheeled 8x8s, Ajax for recce, long-range fires upgrades, and CR3 as the armored spear. The plan is to field 148 tanks, integrate them into armored brigade combat teams, and use that force as NATO's hard-hitting reserve alongside Allies' Leopard and Abrams fleets. The turret itself has export and partner potential. The MOD has said the CR3 turret is designed to be fitted to Allies' tanks, signaling a modular future where Britain exports turrets, not just tanks. That's a smart way to stretch industrial muscle without pretending you'll build 800 hulls. And yes, the number debate. 148 is not a lot, but capability density is the theme. Each CR3 brings better uptime, better lethality, and better networking. Think of it less like a division of tanks and more like a rolling sensor shooter node in a combined arms web. In 2025, the UK has been explicit about accelerating trials and wringing delay out of the schedule. It's a recognition that in Europe's current climate, you don't get points for PowerPoint. You get points for steel in battalions. So, will it change everything? On gunnery alone, British tankers move from bespoke ammo purists to NATO-standard brawlers with airburst tricks and cutting-edge darts. On survivability, they swap "please don't cook off in the crew bay" for blow-off bustle design and Trophy's interceptors. On networking, they get a true digital backbone that can evolve with radios, UAV feeds, and electronic warfare tools as those mature. The punchline is simple: CR3 is the first British tank designed from the start to thrive in a world of loitering munitions, cheap drones, and coalition ammo depots. That's not just an upgrade, that's adaptation. And because this is Britain, there's room for a joke. If Challenger 2 was the pub brawler who never skipped leg day, Challenger 3 is the same guy after he discovered fiber optics, protein shakes, and anger management. He still hits hard, but now he also shares his location with friends, checks the wind on a tablet, and can swat a missile out of the air without putting down his tea. Let's go deeper into the systems British crews will live inside. Start with sights and sensors. CR3's gunner's primary sight and commander's independent panoramic combine modern-day cameras with third-gen thermal imagers, laser rangefinders, and video tracking. That matters because the battlefield isn't a tank v tank duel anymore. It's a Waldo puzzle of FPV drones, ATGM teams, and fleeting signatures. With stabilized independent viewpoints, the commander can hunt while the gunner kills. Classic hunter-killer behavior, but now with better picture, faster handoff, and software that keeps a target boxed even while the tank jounces over ruts. The driver's world is changing too. The embedded image periscope and Rheinmetall's driver's vision system give him more than a keyhole. They give him a dashboard of reality. Wide-angle, thermal overlay, and cues that keep the nose pointed where the commander needs it. Urban fights are where drivers earn medals or obituaries. Seeing around a corner before your glasses is past, it is the difference. The UK is investing in exactly that kind of boring but life-saving tech. Active protection needs its own minute. Trophy MV is a proven radar-guided bodyguard that has already saved crews in combat. On CR3, it's being integrated as part of a layered defense that also includes multispectral smoke, obscurance, think IR killing aerosol curtains, and soft kill warning suites. Trophy handles the rocket screaming at Mach something. Smoke and soft kill handle the laser looking at you from the next street over. The UK finished an assessment phase and is pushing into demonstration and integration, deliberate steps but in the right direction. If you're hunting British tanks with 1990s tactics, you're going to have a very 2020s day. Networking is where CR3 gets quietly dangerous. GVA turns the tank into a Lego set for processors and sensors. Today, it plugs into Bowman as the Army extends that system's life. Tomorrow, it should ride the Lataxias/Morpheus evolution once the procurement soap opera ends. The upside is future-proofing, better counter-UAS receivers, new radios, AI-assisted target recognition. These don't require tearing out the dashboard, just swapping boxes and updating software. In an age where software eats tactics, GVA is how you keep eating. Now, the British way of war is coalition by design. That's why the ammunition shift is so transformational. Under CR2, Britain had a superb HESH and a unique APFSDS, but they were boutique. With CR3, the UK joins the giant club that buys and stocks the same 120mm families as Germany and the US. In a crisis, the sustainment math gets easier. You can feed your tanks from Allied stockpiles and vice versa. And with high-pressure guns like L55A1, you ride the curve of new darts, DM73 today, whatever's next tomorrow, without re-engineering the turret. Plug and fire is the new plug and play. Mobility and survivability have a vibe shift too. The ammunition bustle is a huge change for British crews. You trade some capacity for much greater safety. The hydrogas suspension smooths out the speed bumps of Europe's patchwork roads and farmer ditches, and the upgraded cooling on the engine means you can fight hard without cooking the pack. Power to weight is competitive. The real victory is that CR3 keeps enough electrical headroom to bolt on tomorrow's power-hungry boxes. Sensors, jammers, even laser dazzlers or soft-kill CUAS kits that weren't on anyone's 2010 shopping list. Where does CR3 sit in strategy? Picture an armored brigade combat team in Poland or the Baltics. Boxer brings protected mobility and firepower across roads and towns. Ajax scouts ahead with sensors. Artillery stretches the battlefield. CR3 anchors the heavy end, busting open strong points, counterpunching enemy armor, and acting as the on-call sledgehammer when infantry or recce bump into something nasty. The Army's planning documents and expert commentary have been explicit. Integrate CR3 as deliveries begin from 2027 onward and make it the armored node in a brigade built to deploy fast, fight hard, and interoperate cleanly with allies. Production and timelines? The MOD's contract is for 148 tanks upgraded by RBSL, with milestones already hit, turret steel cut, prototype firings, sighting systems awarded, and a steady cadence of trials. Public events in 2024/2025 showcased vehicles and progress, with IOC targeted for 2027 and the program pushing to keep momentum despite the usual industrial potholes. As for service life, expect CR3 to be Britain's MBT through the 2030s, while Europe argues about next-gen tanks and the UK keeps options open exporting turrets, co-developing technology, or even leapfrogging to a hybrid electric heavy years down the road. For now, the job is simple. Get CR3 into regiments and train like you'll need them tomorrow. How does it stack up against peers? Leopard 2, A7, and M1A2. SEP V3 are the natural yardsticks. With the L55A1 gun and access to the same cutting-edge ammo, CR3 stands shoulder-to-shoulder on lethality. Trophy brings it parity, or better, on APS when fitted. Its digital backbone is as modern as any Western tank, and the bustle ammo arrangement brings British survivability philosophy in line with the Abrams/Leopard school. The difference isn't on the spec sheet, it's in the British Army's concept of use: smaller fleet, more integrated brigades, and heavy emphasis on coalition logistics. In short, a tank built to fight as part of a NATO organism, not as a soloist. Let's answer the drone elephant in the room. Can a tank survive in a world of FPV kamikazes and loitering munitions? Not by pretending it's 1991. CR3's answer is layered. Hard-kill trophy to smash ATGMS and rockets, multispectral smoke to blind seekers, better optics to spot launch teams, networking to pull in cues from UAVS and EW teams, and doctrine that keeps tanks moving, dispersed, and covered by friendly drones and air defenses. No single widget solves drones. A tank that lives in a network and stacks defenses just might. That's the design philosophy you see in CR3's architecture and the wider British program, exports and collaborations. The turret as a product is a clever British angle. If your ally has an older hull but wants a modern top end, gun, sights, APS, digital backbone, the CR3 turret package is built to bolt on. It's not just hardware, it's an invitation to a supply chain of ammunition, optics, and software. Even if orders are modest, it keeps the UK's land industrial base current and interoperable. That's not as flashy as a shiny new tank line, but it's how you stay relevant and paid. And just so we tick the humor box before the credits, if Leopard is the graceful European sprinter and Abrams is the gym bro who can deadlift a school bus, Challenger 3 is the polite bouncer who asks for your ID, reads your vibes through thermal optics, and then ejects you with a programmable airburst that detonates precisely 3 meters over your bad decisions. Please form an orderly queue for ejection. This UK tank will change everything isn't clickbait if everything means how Britain integrates its armor, buys its ammo, and survives in the age of drones. The Challenger 3 brings NATO-standard firepower, bustle-stowed survivability, active protection, and a modern digital backbone into one package timed for the late 2020s fight. It won't win wars by itself, no tank does. But plugged into Britain's evolving brigades and NATO's shared magazines, it gives London a credible, lethal, sustainable heavy punch again. In an era when land power is back on Europe's front page, that's not just important, it's transformational. The only question left is simple. When CR3 arrives in numbers, who's brave or foolish enough to test it?